Ron.
Here.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Ron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron.
You done messed up, Ron.
Aaron is here. Welcome back, everybody, for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Okay, guys, we're dipping into the archive here a little bit. I want to share with you. This is a video. This might be an old video. This is a David Miscavige secret private briefing just to a bunch of OT8s on board the Freewinds ship in 2004. And David Miscavige openly brags about the new auditing session recording system that is going to automatically audio and video record every auditing session in every org in the world and save it to a computer hard drive for easy referencing. And this is something that Scientology will absolutely never publicly promote. But internally, this is a known thing. And because it's not something that they would ever publicly promote, I'm not sure it's something they would publicly admit to law enforcement. So for that reason alone, I think it is valuable to highlight this. I've edited this down to a 4-minute segment where David Miscavige is describing and demonstrating the automatic session recording system that he said is already in place in Clearwater, Florida at Flag, and that he is working to implement in every Class 5 organization in the world. Now, the way that ended up rolling out is that this new session recording system is something that was built into all of the new Scientology buildings that were being purchased for the existing Scientology organizations around the world, of which there's 134. And only half of those orgs are done now. And I promise you, this recording system he's talking about is not in place in the organizations that still have their old buildings, but it is supposed to be in place in all of the new organizations. So let's just take a look at this. And I have some thoughts for you on it, some more thoughts for you on it. In this video edit, I've done my best to include the definitions of things on screen. But let's just take a look at this and see how it goes. Check it out.
Okay, in any event. Now, here's another one. Here's we really get. And this one I've been able to take from Flag, and I'm going to be able to bring it right down to org level. Because one thing you know, if you've been through the Flag AO down there, you know that they can record their sessions. Every single one on a hard drive, high security, no videotapes floating around. You can look right at the session. If you knew the cost of that baby, whoa, that wasn't going to be too viable to put in the orgs. So we've been working on this for a couple of years, and we have a system here that for $15,000, $20,000, maybe we can put it into an org with 2 HGCs networked throughout the entire place, into their qual cramming, into their CS office, into everywhere. Now, let's take a look, and look what you can do now. First of all, put aside the CS looking at it. Best auditor criticism is your own. BC tape. Look at your session. You know you suck. Right? So, a guy goes into cramming, I mean, you know, right there, and it talks about, in that tape it talks about, you know, you can look at your session, he was talking about listening to it. He says, the guy always thinks the session went off the rails at the wrong point. He's gonna hear it went off the rails 15 minutes earlier. Now to be able to see it, you really do see it. You see the whole thing crumble and fall apart. And it's, you know, it's in terms of training, like, look, we can do everything we want in the course room, but you know the guy is white-knuckled by the time he's going in session with the public. And if you don't know that, he is. I have never seen an auditor. If I see an auditor that isn't scared out of his mind, he doesn't care then. I mean, they are terrified back there. Like, I'm going to have a real person in front of me, and this is, jeez, yeah. Get in the room. And you want to weld the door shut, because the quickest they want to do is bail. And unless you can get them to go through it, they're never going to become certain or have their own confidence. And once they do, then they will. But anyway, we have this, and what it does, it basically records the whole session, but again, it plays it back over an actual meter for both the auditor and the CS. It's not just recorded there, we actually see the session. And to give you an example of what I can do, you on this now? Here's just a little assessment. You know, so it's recorded on the hard drive. Here you go, I can just hit play, here we go.
Squeeze the cans, please. Thank you. Take a deep breath and let it out. Thank you. We're going to assess the prepared list. Okay. What country would you like to live in?
See?
United Kingdom, Ireland, Sweden, Denmark.
Okay, so you get the idea. Now, let's imagine a long session, too. The types of things you can do. You can look in the worksheets. Well, here's what's going to happen. This is why it takes a bit to get this totally right. If the meter's modified, so when they hit the TA reset button, the 0, right? It starts the clock running on the computer. Now we got the time, we now have an idea in the session where it is, and literally, the ease with which you can do it is you can just grab your little icon. Oops, let me just get over here. I'm a righty, sorry. You know, and you can scan it along, go to any part of the session you want.
Hungry?
It's got the time right there on the clock.
Yugoslavia, Greece,
Focus it in any part of the session.
Ukraine,
So,
Turkey?
there you go. That's our
Saudi
session
Arabia?
record system, which is going to be
Lebanon?
our next frontier in quals in every Class 5 org in the world.
Oh, I tried to capture it on his face. There's a great screenshot there of him being like, which seems to be exactly what it would feel like to be a cult leader, particularly of a small, failing cult like Scientology. Okay, so I have some thoughts on this, but do you notice how David Miscavige kind of has the same speech patterns and physical ways of moving his hands and his arms as Tom Cruise? I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I absolutely noticed it as I watched the video, and some of the people, because I uploaded this entire, this was a 4-minute clip of a 2-hour and 15-minute briefing that David Miscavige gave on the Free Winds cruise ship to the OTA. It's the main. So I'm going to go off on a few tangents here. Every summer, Scientology celebrates the anniversary of the maiden voyage of the Free Winds cruise ship, and David Miscavige does a it's like 5 nights in a row on the cruise ship, and only OT8s are allowed on the cruise ship for the main voyage. Everyone else has to get off the ship. They don't let, so it's only the highest level Scientologists that are on the Free Winds cruise ship for the main voyage anniversary event. And they do 5 nights in a row. And then every summer Scientology takes the event videos from each of those 5 events, and they hold 5 events in 5 weeks in a row. They hold a Scientology event 5 weeks in a row, and Scientology calls it the summer of events. Now, this briefing was not one of the events. This was a special confidential briefing just to the OT8s. And that was something he only started doing, I think, for the first time in 2003. It had never really been done before. And so that was a way for Miscavige to bring in the OT8s, and even though they're public Scientologists, to make them feel like they were part of his special inside, army. They weren't like regular Scientologists. They weren't like everyone else. They were his. And that's an interesting little thing. One thing I noticed in the comments, people are like, oh my God, he's actually being like nice and laughing with them. Like this must be before he became a monster. Guys, while David Miscavige is giving this briefing, he had hundreds of Scientology executives locked up in a prison on Scientology's, in Scientology's international management base. This is how good David Miscavige is at schmoozing and being charismatic when he's in front of the highest level, wealthiest Scientologist. This is how he's able to turn it on. And also realize he's speaking to public Scientologists. He's not speaking to staff members. He's not speaking to Sea Org members. Let's see here. I just had some, the entire 2-hour and 15-minute briefing I uploaded yesterday as a video to my channel. I've got timestamps on all the chapter breaks and everything. So if anyone wants to see the whole thing for any reason, feel free to go over it and watch that. So here's what's interesting about these auditing sessions being recorded, and about Miscavige coming up with all these new systems to try and improve the standardness of administration of Scientology auditing procedures. L. Ron Hubbard never seemed to have any of these problems, right? Like L. Ron Hubbard never seemed to think that all these extra systems had to be in place in order for people to get good auditing or for Scientology to expand. Now, I don't really give a damn about what L. Ron Hubbard thought anymore. And I don't really give a damn about Scientology expanding or anything, but I just wanted to make that note of Miscavige keeps having to come up with new reasons and new tricks and new plans for either why Scientology is failing or what it needs to expand faster. And actually, this is an interesting little contradiction that if you're a recently under the radar Scientologist, I don't know if perhaps you might not have even thought about this. Miscavige keeps claiming at every international event that Scientology every year is expanding exponentially faster than the previous years before. Then why does he keep having to come up with new solutions and new programs and new initiatives and new training programs to make everything better? If Scientology was actually expanding quickly, there would be no reason to constantly re-release things, reissue things, have people redo their training over again. You wouldn't want to mess around with it if it was working. Even L. Ron Hubbard said that. So there is this strange contradiction where Miscavige is constantly claiming that everything is going gangbusters, and yet he's constantly changing everything. He's constantly redoing everything. So this whole thing about using video recording auditing sessions, this used to be something even back to the early 90s and probably even the late 80s that was only done when auditors were being trained, when they were actually doing their auditor training courses and doing their internships. It was not something that was done for professional auditing sessions that were being delivered by already certified auditors to public who are paying $200 an hour to receive the auditing. And it was never a secret that your auditing was being recorded, because back then, the only way to record the auditing session was to set up a giant VHS camcorder right here on a tripod looking at the e-meter, and another camera looking at the auditor's face on the other side. And so this would be done on internships, and public would not be paying $200 an hour to receive auditing from an intern. They would only pay that money to receive auditing from already certified professional auditors. And so you sort of knew what you were getting back then. You knew when your session was being recorded. You knew when it wasn't. You got to choose whether you wanted to participate in a recorded auditing session or not. Well, I pose the question to you. When Miscavige sets up and implements systems to automatically record every single auditing session, even by already certified professional auditors who are auditing fully paying public pre-clears, is it really for quality control? Is that the real reason? Because I don't think anyone outside of Scientology would believe that that was the real reason. It's actually crazy. And you know, at least, and guys, this is one thing that sets, one of the many things, but a major, major thing that sets Scientology apart, even legally speaking, in my opinion, from other religious entities that have some version of confession. In Scientology, these confessionals, these interrogations, they're not voluntary. They're ordered. They're mandatory. You don't get to choose what to divulge in a confessional. The auditor asks you interrogation type questions, looks to the e-meter for the answer of whether there's an answer to this question, and then demands you answer the question. And if you don't have an answer, the auditor is going to use the e-meter to help you find an answer. So it's not voluntary. It's not self-originated. And they're documenting every word of it. Now, it used to be that the documenting of the confessionals and the interrogations and the auditing sessions was at least just words on paper. So, you know, in a court of law or whatever, there would really be no way for Scientology to prove that what the paper said was what you actually said. You could always say that the auditor got it wrong or the auditor made it up or whatever. But now Scientology has it on camera. Video, audio, saved to a networked hard drive. And that's the other thing about the difference between Scientology, quote unquote, confessionals and any other religious entity, is that the other religion, there's no evidence of what was divulged in a confessional. for other religious entities that engage in this type of practice. And yet in Scientology, not only is it documented, the information is easily shared with others in the organization and is widely shared with others in the organization, not just through word of mouth, but by people having access to your confessional files. And now not only can they have access to the written word, they have access to the video. You notice one of the things he said there was the benefit of this this computerized recording system. He's like, it's good for security. There's no videotapes floating around. And you're like, yeah, because that's how it used to be. These cassettes of these recorded auditing sessions would just be left lying around. This idea that they're priest, penitent, privileged, protected information is a myth. Almost anyone in Scientology can access the auditing files and find the cassette tapes and now access the computer files. It's absolutely incredible. And I just really think that as state and federal prosecutors start to go after Scientology for their violations of the Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act, I think it will become very important for the authorities to know that Scientology has all of their interrogations, their confessionals, their auditing sessions thoroughly documented, not only in writing, but also in video format, and in a format that it's impossible to just lose or damage. It's files on a networked hard drive that is considered, it's never something that you could just lose or damage. It's not. So those are some of my thoughts. Let me see here. What else did I make notes of? We covered that. We covered all of that. By the way, you guys noticed that when he addresses the OT8s, the Scientology public on the Freewinds ship, he's wearing his Sea Org captain's uniform. It's been a long time since I've seen David Miscavige wear his captain's uniform. And David Miscavige has actually been deposed for lawsuits either once or twice. And in one of those depositions, they kept referring to him as Captain Miscavige, Captain David Miscavige, and it made him furious. He says, nobody calls me Captain Miscavige. And it is interesting that nobody does call him Captain Miscavige. And yet only at certain international events is he, and it's usually the ones aboard the Freewinds ship, is he actually introduced as Captain David Miscavige. I'm pretty sure that only ever happens at these Freewinds events. I think it also used to happen at the L. Ron Hubbard birthday game event in March 13th, because he would come out in his Sea Org uniform. But it just so happens that, for the last 10 or 15 years, Miscavige has stopped appearing at events in his Sea Org uniform, and instead he wears a tuxedo. I don't know what his big button is on being called Captain Miscavige. He sure looks like Captain David Miscavige. I don't know. Is he the head of the Sea Org? Is he about to captain a Delta flight? Nobody knows. You can't tell the difference. But yes, that is Captain Miscavige's casual uniform. He started wearing those uniforms when he was taking testosterone and working out a lot, and he looked a little buff, and he wanted to show off his buffness to all the Scientology public. But he doesn't do it anymore, guys. He doesn't do it anymore. Okay, let's run through some starred comments and we'll wrap this up. Nancy Stitchin, so good to see you. What does Scientology tell its members regarding why their sessions need to be recorded? They are told it's for quality control. Oh, that's one of the things I wanted to mention. One of the stories that Marty Rathbun told when he was speaking up before he went back to being David Miscavige's lapdog is that Tom Cruise very specifically did not want his auditing sessions recorded. So that goes to tell you that even a public Scientologist like Tom Cruise had concerns about what would be done with the information, who would have access to the information. And so Tom said, I don't want my sessions recorded. So they moved him to another room in the Celebrity Center that Tom didn't think was recorded, but was in fact recorded. Tom Cruise's interrogation confessional sessions were recorded without his knowledge. What does that tell you? Nothing is sacred. Constance June says, nothing implies we will use what you say against you at some point more than recording, auditing, and confessions. Yep. Coffee Buzz, you suck, Dave. Northern Girl, does Davey fancy himself a comedian, or are people so scared of him they laugh at everything he says. Okay, so many of the comments on the video, and when I say the video, I mean the whole 2 hour and 15-minute briefing that I uploaded. So many of the comments are saying, what is with the laugh track? So many people have said they think it sounds like they're piping in a laugh track or a clap track, an applause track. Guys, I don't think they're piping in a laugh track or an applause track. That really is how Scientologists respond, even when he's not joking. Every time he finishes a sentence and makes a strong point, everyone applauses like it's Kim Jong-un in North Korea. At Scientology events, he gets a standing ovation after like every few paragraphs. But I do have to wonder if when they produced this video, because this video was actually eventually sent out to the staff members of orgs. It was not sent out for all the public to watch. It was sent out for the staff members to watch. I do wonder if when they're doing the video production, they add some extra laughter or applause. But, you know, I think whenever you see David Miscavige on stage speaking, it usually is so serious and so formal that in a casual setting, anytime he says something funny, Scientologists just lose their mind. Lori Marie, why anyone would agree to this is just mind-boggling. Magnus says, look at the like button. Thank you. Touch the like button. Thank you. Deanna Ross, when I protested in Los Angeles, what church records confessionals? The kind of church that will use them against you. And yes, I yelled at cars leaving the parking structure. Magnus, watching Miscavige and listening to him speak convinces me that he is completely insane. Northern Girl, inside the mind of a twisted man. Virginia, under Hubbard, Scientology expanded and grew, but Dave has presided over a disaster. It's true. Dave's Deep Dives. Good to see you, Dave. Always act nice, kind, and suave when you want to squeeze more money out of your audience is what we just learned from Davey from the fake space. Navy. George Massey. Thanks to everyone that pitched in for the fundraiser for the Miscavige family. If you would like to help, here is the link. Yes, thank you, George, for putting that up. I want to thank all of you out there who watched the video that I put up yesterday about the tragic young boy who is in a coma here locally. He is the boyfriend of my cute little youngest daughter, Brisbane, who is the adorable little girl at the end of all my videos. I put up a video yesterday talking about what happened. And thank you to all of you who donated to the family's fundraiser that they had set up. With your guys' help, I think we raised over $6,000 additional dollars just since the video last night. So thank you all. I really, really appreciate that. And so does the family. Virginia, former Scientologists have talked about Dave blabbing about Tom Cruise's sex life. That's right. Tom DeVocht himself said that Tom DeVocht was one of Scientology's most senior executives, that when he was one of David Miscavige's most favorite executives, they would retire to the officers' lounge, break out the scotch, and David Miscavige would review the daily auditing reports from Tom Cruise's auditing sessions, and they would make fun of Tom Cruise for the stuff that he was talking about in his auditing sessions. It's absolutely unbelievable. Virginia says, hard to believe that Scientology doesn't get rid of Dave. His leadership has been a big failure. The cult shrinks every year. Virginia, it's actually simply impossible for anyone in Scientology to get rid of David Miscavige. They call him chairman of the board, but there is no board. He's the chairman of nothing. He's just the dictator of Scientology who has complete control over everything, including all of the finances and all of the lawyers. And there's absolutely no mechanism to get rid of him. Linda says, Captain Davey. Sue Adams, is there any such thing as good auditing? Well, a Scientologist would tell you that all auditing is good auditing, even the straight up interrogations. So if what you mean, like, is there any Scientology auditing that ever actually makes anybody feel better? The answer would be yes. That's what usually gets people like kind of interested in sticking with Scientology in the beginning, in the lower levels. But, lots of things can make you feel better. A long walk, a couple beers, a good night's sleep. You don't have to join a cult to feel a little bit better some of the time. So, but yeah. All right, guys, that is it for now. That might be it for the evening, but we'll see. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, oh, Nancy, Mama, love. could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe